if you find a company and you really like the founder, you like the team, and you think there's some legs there, do me one small favor. Don't ask for majority of their shares. You're literally killing the company.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Bae-Pyong.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Hustleshare podcast. My name is Ronster, and I'm your host. And this episode is brought to you by Payroll Hero, a time, attendance, scheduling, HR, and payroll solution for Philippine companies. So if you're new to the show, first of all, welcome, because we're glad to have you here. But if this is your first time, I'd like to let you know that this podcast is a podcast, obviously, that lets you improve your hustle by learning from other hustlers. We are not here to one-up each other and compare how different we are with each other. No. What this podcast is supposed to be doing, or at least our goal, is to help you improve your hustle by empathizing with people that are very, very similar to you, but you just don't know it. But I'd like to give you a heads up because we try to keep it real here. And with that comes a lot of profanity and a lot of vulgar language. So if you're in an environment where there are kids or anyone that's not supposed to be hearing this, please turn the volume down or use a headset. Or better yet, if you're not comfortable, you may turn this podcast off. Don't tell me I did not warn you. This episode is probably the most packed of all the episodes we've done so far because our guest went all out in this one. And I'm talking about Mr. Michael Lints of Golden Gate Ventures, where he will share with us the hustle of a venture capitalist. I'm not just talking about a whatever venture capitalist. Michael is part of one of the biggest VC firms here in Southeast Asia, where they've invested in unicorns already in Southeast Asia alone. So what he's going to be able to share with us is top dollar information that if you're in a startup, whether you're a founder or someone who wants to invest in startups, you should grab a pen because he's going to be teaching us a lot and shedding light on what a VC actually does in their hustle. And let me just give you an idea of what he will share with us in this episode. So he's going to share how he started out as an entrepreneur, how he ended up in Singapore, covering all the way from Netherlands, and how he bumped into this VC career, this thriving VC career that he's currently in. And with that, he's going to detail every single thing that you need to know exactly what he does and what a venture capitalist looks for when they're raising money for their fund and how they divest that into startups that they invest in. He is also going to talk about what he looks for a startup to fund. And what are the factors that they consider in order for a startup to be considered fundable from a VC's perspective. Michael didn't stop there. He went all in giving us advice on what he thinks is missing in the Philippine startup ecosystem and how he thinks we can improve this all in this episode. And lastly, he also shared tips and hacks in how a startup can get a hold of a venture capitalist so they can pitch their idea and have that chance to be able to get funded. And as a bonus, Mike also shared tips on how you can grow your network even if you're just starting from scratch. So I hope you're ready and you grab a pen because we're gonna begin this episode right now. Welcome to episode 13 of the Hustleshare podcast. This is a very interesting episode because we have someone who literally flew in, not just to do this, because he's also, has a meeting, but we are very fortunate to have time to spend with Mr. Michael Lints of Golden Gate Ventures. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Mike, again, we've been talking for quite a while before we started this. And I'm so excited because finally, I can actually ask you about what the hell a venture capitalist does or an investor does. Because I know what we do on the startup side, which basically fail 9 times out of 10. Well, what is it? What's the hustle like from the other side of the spectrum in depth, because in several episodes, Kat sort of talked about it lightly, Earl sort of talked about it lightly, but in here we're gonna talk about the whole shebang, right? So, cool. Mike, let's talk about your hustle. So let's start that out with, bro, what's your hustle?
That's a good question. Maybe sort of a few steps back. I've been on your side of the table, whereas I've been a founder of a company. This is let me think. 1999, 2000s when we started the company. So I've been on that side as well.
Okay.
And it's funny because the reason why I started this company with two of my very good friends is we had the idea that we were better at doing what we were doing than the big corporates.
Yes, always. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of your dream. You know, I'm going to change the world and make a big difference. So fortunately enough, the company did relatively well. So we ran what we call a data center. Back in the days, especially early 2000s, data centers were popping up everywhere.
And where was this physically located when you started this out?
So we were physically in the area of Rotterdam.
In the Netherlands.
Yeah, in the Netherlands. Okay. Yes. So this was interesting because it was a booming time for data centers. Okay. We were just slowly not coming out of, but still middle in the .com bubble. Yeah. And a lot of the corporates and SMEs were looking to outsource their IT. And the Capgeminis and those big corporates, they were very expensive. So we said, no, we'll undercut those guys and build some similar service, but then for cheaper. So luckily enough, the company got acquired. And just to add, we never had VC money. So the company was launched with our own capital, and we bootstrapped for 6 years until the company got acquired.
That wasn't easy for sure, because bootstrapping was like, I did 1 year bootstrapping. Or now 3 years in my first 1 year here, and that was probably the hardest shit I have had to go through, because every 2 weeks I have to worry about payroll. Yeah. Which, by the way, now Payroll Hero is our plug. We want to plug Payroll Hero if you want to check it out. But it's hard. Holy shit. Right?
Yeah. So that's tough. So the magic of getting a sort of VC on board and using that in your marketing to get partners and using that to hire talent. We didn't have that luxury, so we decided to kind of, based on the revenue we made very sort of sensible decisions on, when do we hire? We hire slowly, like one at a time. One at a time, once every 6 months. We'll look at a new system engineer. Eventually, the company was around 20 people before it got acquired. I left first because I wanted to give back to the community. I loved kind of advising and helping out startups. So I said, if I'm able to get my shares bought by this kind of bigger data center, I'm very happy. My two partners stayed on for a bit longer. So they had an amazing earnout. They did an amazing job, by the way, integrating the company into the acquirer's company. Nice. And then we all kind of went our own way.
Okay. Now, let's walk this through. So after your first company, still in the Netherlands, right? How did you build that career now? Because technically we're in the time machine. By the way, there's a Hustleshare time machine. I will trademark this very soon. I don't know if anybody would even fucking compete, but you'll never know. So we go there, and then what was the next step for you? Did you take all right, I want to be a VC? Because that's a natural progression that I see a lot of successful startup people also do. They do angel investing a little bit on the side. What was it for you?
So here's the thing, right? And maybe it's my age now, but if I look back, so I was 26. The company got acquired. I was 31. So I never told myself in the mirror, I'm going to be a VC. I never ever said that in my life. If I fast forwarded to now, and we understand that VC is a career path, and it's a great one, because I'm still in VC and I love it. But I think none of us said, we want to become a VC and that's our big dream. The only thing I said was, now that I have sold my company, I have a bit more time and flexibility to help entrepreneurs. And literally, so I did two things. So the first thing was There was an economic development board in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And that board basically helped public and private entities work together.
Sort of like a Kubo here, a little bit.
A little bit,
Right.
yeah. So they decided, why don't we get all the top CEOs in the Netherlands,
Wow.
put them in one board. So I'm talking about Shell, Unilever, Rabobank, ABN AMRO, ING. So they were all in one board. And the funny thing is, they said, now we have all these great people, but we're missing a young, energetic person to kind of run the young part of this board.
Wow. And that was you.
That was me. So
Holy shit, dude. I didn't know this.
yeah, so I guess it was because I had a big mouth and was trying to make a difference. So I was very fortunate. The former Secretary of State, he picked me up. He said, I've heard good things about you.
Wow.
Think about this position. So I said yes, and I've been on that board for 4 years.
Wow.
Most amazing experience ever. So I literally got to work with all those top CEOs for 4 years.
In what aspect? Because that's a hustle in its own per se, in terms of how that's gonna be working as a young blood. You got to earn those.
Yeah, you got to, especially within that group. You got to earn your stripes. So
Right.
so one of the things they asked me to do is to set up a young economic development board. So I found their equivalents, but then sort of 10 years earlier. So,
Wow.
So I looked for inspiring entrepreneurs, great people in the NGO sector,
Right.
Sort of amazing, inspiring debaters, for instance. So we formed an equivalent young economic development board, and we were the counterpart for the older guys.
Nice.
And
The next wave per se.
exactly.
That's good.
And we were debating about how do we get sort of the Rotterdam economy and the Dutch economy to a next level, and
Nice.
how do we make sure that government work with big corporates, corporates work with startups work with new talents, and how do we sort of build that ecosystem?
Yeah.
And that was I'm not a politician, and I'm not a big fan of politics,
Right.
but I love that experience because we were able to make moves for very, very young and upcoming entrepreneurs.
That is great. Now, Mike, after that role, how do you transition to your first foray into like venture capital, right?
Yeah.
How did that come to you?
So it's all, I mean, it's similar to you, right? You see an opportunity, and you now run this podcast,
Right.
And you do it.
Ah.
And
Okay.
you do it because it feels good. It's part of your passion,
And it doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work.
Right.
You feel like you're doing good and changing something. So
Sure.
that's how I literally ran into a few friends that I met through the Economic Development Board.
Sure.
And they were like, we're putting something together and we're investing in a few companies. Do you want to think about helping us structure this? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
And before we knew it, we were investing in companies.
Already.
Already.
Back in Rotterdam.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. The difficulty was that, I was a bit on a high because I just came off the Economic Development Board.
True.
That board is impressive. So, I was like, I can do this stuff.
Correct.
So I decided that it would be a good idea, which in the end it wasn't, to invest in sort of my non-core, which was
Right.
non-IT companies. So I invested in fashion stuff and
Wow. Nightlife.
everything.
Right.
The difficulty is, just coming back to focus. The difficulty is if you spread yourself thin, you're not going to do anything right.
Yeah.
So I think we got the investment part right because we were able to find a few gems.
Okay.
But it was very difficult to manage because there was no synergy between any of the companies.
True.
It was very, very difficult
Random.
to leverage one investment.
Yeah.
So it felt like a very random portfolio.
Right.
So even when we talked to the private equity guys that are looking to sort of invest in some of these companies,
Sure.
they said, you guys did something amazing. You found 10 random companies and made it work.
Right.
But in the end, it was too random. So in the end, it actually didn't work out.
When you say it didn't work out, did most of those companies folded, or?
Yeah, so I think at least half the companies folded. A few of them are still around.
Wow.
But it's been a very, very difficult transition, and we had the bad luck or bad timing of being in the midst of, this was 2008.
Financial crisis,
recession.
Right.
Yeah, so we had deals with banks that didn't just pan out. So it was the most toughest learning school that I had.
Okay.
But in the end, it was a good one because it built a sort of a sixth sense where, one thing I now always talk about focus. I hammer on focus.
Yes, which again we'll talk about later because you wrote
sure.
2 articles
Yes.
about focus and reaching your potential,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about in the later part of the program.
Yeah.
But Mike, how did you end up in Singapore now? I mean, I remember you telling us during your talk here last year, you were supposed to go to San Francisco with your wife, and you did a
Yeah.
reroute. You went to the other side of the Pacific. How did you end up being with Golden Gate?
Yeah, this and for some reason, and sometimes me and my wife Marika, we just laugh our asses off because it is so random. So after the investment period and after the Economic Development Board, I decided to I wanted to do something international.
Okay.
And literally one of my friends, I still Steph van Dongen. I saw Steph. Thank you, by the way.
Steph, if you're listening
yeah.
to this, I don't know you, but shout out to you.
Yeah, this is all you because Steph literally said, Mike, I've read about this amazing course at Harvard in Boston. I think it's something for you. This is all he said. I think it's something for you. You should check it out. I'm like, dude, random, but I'll check it out. No, because I felt like it's coming from him. I respect him. I appreciate him. So I was like, I'll check it out. So I saw the course, and it felt good. So I was like, okay, I'll apply and see what happens.
And this is fucking Harvard.
This is Harvard. Yeah.
It's not easy. It's fucking Harvard.
So
dude.
it's an executive course. It's a pretty short one, but it's good. Yeah. You get you get cases. You gotta meet a lot of people and talk through a few of these sort of difficult situations of how do you solve it. So I apply. I get in. So I go to Boston, and in my first class, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
So I think we had 60 people in our class.
Okay.
Very inspirational. So the funny thing is, you get up at 6. You get up at 6. You do breakfast with your group.
Yep.
You do exercises. You work on a case. You go to class. You kind of defend your case.
Right.
They'll bring in the most amazing, entrepreneurs and CEOs to kind of talk through the choices they've made.
Okay. Similar to like what we're doing now. So the hustle stories and whatnot.
It actually was. So one of my classmates, he lives in Singapore. And we never talked about venture or working together or whatever, but he lived in Singapore. And for some reason, after the Harvard class, he was like, yo, dude, you should check out this ecosystem here because there's stuff happening.
Wow. And this is what year?
Oh, man, this was so Harvard was 2011, and then this was 2012, 2013.
Wow. Right around the same time. The local ecosystem here in the Philippines also started around the same time. But again, we'll talk about the Philippines later.
Oh, yes.
Or why we're still in a fucking dormant, comatose state while everybody else is like booming, right?
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. But you guys, you started this, and now after Harvard, have you been to Singapore even prior to that?
No. So it is the funny thing. So I had no idea about what's happening in Singapore, other than so going back to the Economic Development Board.
Yeah.
The model in the Netherlands was based off of the Economic Development Board in Singapore.
No way.
Yeah, so they basically copied the model from Singapore and used the same model in the Netherlands. So that's funny, right?
So there's some really right about what Singapore is doing.
Yeah, so
because our government here in the Philippines is trying to model it to Singapore, but we're doing it the complete opposite way.
Yeah, so it's kind of it sort of became full circle. So
Right.
so Singapore did resonate to me.
Okay.
So I literally said, what you're telling me is amazing. So I was like, cool, I'll go to Singapore. So my good friend Deep, he's like telling me about the ecosystem, showed me around. I stayed at his place, had dinner, and but the funny thing is, he's like, yeah, there's this fund, Golden Gate Ventures, just starting. You should meet these guys.
Okay.
So I met 2 of the 3 founders. I met Vinny Lauria, Jeff Payne.
Yep. Shout out Vinny. Shout out Jeff.
Always shout out to them. We had dinner. And I listened to their story, and they don't know this, but I was like, this is fucking awesome. What you guys are doing? It was early stage, but it was raw.
You were sold right away.
I was sold. I loved it. It was raw. It was very early. I saw the hustle in what they were doing.
Yeah.
And again, I saw that they were wanted to change something.
Yeah.
I was sold. So I was looking, okay, how can I be helpful?
Right.
So what happened was one of their portfolio companies was raising around the funding.
Okay.
I said, I can help fundraise with my network back in Europe.
Yeah, and you have, dude, just looking at back of what you told us in your network of the board that you were in, those are not just those are high net worth individuals that you won't even have a chance to get a sit down on. That alone, you're talking to them in one room. Holy shit.
Yeah, so
Right.
so was very fortunate to kind of have a network that enabled me to talk to a lot of people, and
Right.
And ended up one of my friends said, you know what, we run a family office, we're looking at Asia for a long time.
Okay.
Why don't we have a look at this?
Wow.
And this is literally how my life at Golden Gate Ventures started.
Wow. So you got that deal done.
Yes.
Next thing you know, you're no longer in the US and you moved to Singapore.
Yeah. So we just had a baby girl. So Lana was
Yep.
a year, and I had to tell Marika that I was totally sold on Singapore, and that our plan was to do something in the US.
You went to the other side of the Pacific, bro.
Yeah, and she had no plans of moving to Singapore anytime soon. So this was a very difficult discussion we had.
Man.
But yeah, in the end, I have to again, we laugh about it right now, but it's about 6.5 years ago.
Yep.
We had a very, very tough discussion at home. Like,
Right.
our daughter's year and a half. We're gonna take her. She's young enough to kind of
Yeah,
move
yeah,
to a new environment, but we're gonna take her into a new environment. We have no idea what's. It's not that I
Right.
have like a cushy corporate job.
Right.
This was like, Mike, you're gonna hustle with us. That's
Yep,
that's basically
yep,
what it is.
yep.
And I was like, I just have to do it. I feel that this is an amazing story.
Yep.
Even if it doesn't work out, the experience is going to be amazing. So we have to do it. So
It's worth it.
worth it.
Yeah.
So sold this on Marika. Sold this basically on Lana. It was a year and a half. She had
Right,
Google Gaga, so she was fine.
How many days did you sleep in the couch when you?
Well, I do have to be transparent. Like, Marika and I had a tough year. We had
Okay.
a really tough year where she was like, "What am I doing here?
Right.
What are you doing here?
Right.
This makes no sense at all."
Right.
But
she
yeah,
stuck it through. She stuck it through.
She stuck it through, and she said, if you believe it so much, I'm there for you. So we'll make it happen.
And behind every hustler, and I'm a firm believer of this, behind every successful hustler is a very successful partner and a very supportive partner.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
swear. Because without that belief and that faith in the hustle of your partner, things will just break apart.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I couldn't have. It's always tough that people see. Sort of, they might see, me or one of the other partners as, that this is amazing.
Right.
But how much our partners have to be willing to
Oh my
support
God.
us, it is intense.
Yeah.
It
So
is
shout out to
intense.
Marika
Yeah.
for this, and shout out to my queen for always being there. But let's take a quick break, Mike, and when we come back, let's talk about the nitty gritty. Let's take a deep dive of what you actually do.
Yes.
Now, and more of that after the break. Hey, hustlers, let's talk about something really important real quick. Something that a lot of you I know can relate to, especially if you're running a business. And I'm talking about payroll. You know how hard it is and time consuming this is, especially that you have to do it twice a month. And as a guy who's been running tech startups for over 10 years now, this is something that I did not enjoy doing at all. It's not like it's because I don't like paying my employees. No, but it's already hard looking for funding to fund for your payroll, and then it's so much more harder if you're doing this manually. Luckily, I've found something that I highly recommend that you try, and it's from our friends from Payroll Hero. And here's how Payroll Hero works. They use your employee's face as your primary biometric to avoid buddy punching and ghost employees. So unless your team can figure out a way to swap each other's faces, tracking time and performance will never be your problem again. Payroll Hero is also very consumer friendly because it's also based on web and mobile, and it's also cloud-based, so you never have to worry about your clunky old biometric machines. So now you can automate time, attendance, scheduling, HRIS, and a payroll platform wrapped all in one. We have a very special bonus for you hustlers listening on the Hustleshare podcast. All you need to do is go to www.payrollhero.com payrollhero.ph and use the promo code Hustleshare to get a 60-day free trial. That's technically 4 payrolls that you can do all for free, so you can see how it works for you. And the beauty about it is there's no upfront payment needed to do this. So never worry about payroll again. With Payroll Hero, optimizing work productivity with happiness. And we're back from the break. We are still with Michael Lints of the Golden Gate Ventures. Technically, Mike, you are a venture partner now, right?
Partner.
Venture partner. So let's walk through what a VC or a venture capitalist does. So let's for the benefit of those people who actually have no idea, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, what is a venture partner, right? So you're technically an investor and you invest in startup tech companies,
yes,
correct? But it's not just that, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to have money to invest, and that's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, that's majority of the job. Finding the money to invest first, then to look for companies to invest in with that money.
Yeah.
Mike, walk us through what is the objective of a venture capitalist and how do you pitch this to an investor or a limited partner?
Yeah. So maybe as part of your step back,
Okay.
It's good to understand that the reason why venture capital exists
Okay.
is because traditional capital, whether it's banks,
Okay.
private equity, hedge funds, mutual funds, whatever,
Okay.
do not invest in this risky asset class.
Got it.
And the reason is, if we find a guy and a girl with an amazing idea
Okay.
that have built some software,
Okay.
and they're going to say, our company is going to be worth 100 million in 2 years,
Okay.
a private equity guy would say, I cannot value that because there's no assets.
Sure.
So I don't understand this.
Sure.
Our job as a venture capitalist is to understand what they're saying, what they're building,
Appraise it.
and get a sense of, are these two people able to build a company,
Okay.
run a company, lead a team, build a product, work with partners, and
scale.
eventually make it the biggest thing, in the country, the region, or the world. That's
There
sort
you
of high level what we need to understand.
Okay.
And that's the reason why venture capital is there.
Yep.
But for us to be able to invest in those companies, we need money as well. So
Correct.
similar to what an entrepreneur does,
Yep.
is fundraising. One of our important jobs is to convince very big funds, like
Yeah.
sovereign wealth funds, fund of funds, large families,
Yeah.
whoever has
High net worth, whatever.
high net worth individuals, whoever has big portions of money to allocate to this
Right.
industry.
And has that risk appetite to
Yes.
lose it all.
Yeah.
It's like a betting per se, in a little bit, because you bet big, you win big.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not for the risk averse.
No.
Right.
So venture capital is not for the risk averse, and then you have different layers of what does venture capital mean? You have angel investors, you have accelerators, so you have different forms of how people invest.
Okay.
But I would say that the risk appetite is big, so we have to convince our investors
Okay.
that we understand what's happening in
Correct.
this space, and that we're able to find and identify the best companies.
Got it.
So how do we do it? So something is called traction. They basically, or track record. They basically say, what have you guys done in the past
Okay.
to make me believe that you're able to do
Yeah.
this?
Cred. Street cred, per se.
Basically
Yeah.
street cred.
Yeah.
And with that, we say, well, individually, all the partners.
Right.
So Vinny's been a 2-time entrepreneur, so he
Yep.
knows what it takes to build a company.
True.
Jeffrey has been with Founders Institute and has been
right.
seeing hundreds and hundreds of companies and helping them through different processes of fundraising,
From an
building
idea
products,
phase to
ideas,
whatever, right.
everything. And he's been an investor internationally.
Right.
Justin, part of the ecosystem since day one.
By the way, it's part Filipino. Shout out Justin Hall
Justin,
and
part
Dora.
Filipino.
And all your 3 dogs.
and the 3 dogs.
Yep.
But yeah, he has seen so many deals.
Right.
And he's written a great article about sort of recognizing certain patterns and certain trends.
Okay.
Myself, being a former entrepreneur, been an investor,
Right.
you've worked internationally, so the combination of the partnership and of course Pop Radio, successful entrepreneur, successful investor, and successful advisor, that combination gives us credibility to invest in early stage companies.
Yeah. So again, that's street cred, and you're like the Justice League or the Avengers, right? You've done it. You've been successful in what you're doing before. Now you work together. All right, let's help more people achieve their dreams.
Exactly.
Now, but there's a caveat to that, right? I mean, when you, as a fund, you're not just doing, okay, I'll help you manage your shit and I'll invest. There's something in it for you.
Yeah.
So when you say, for example, let's talk about like, let's just throw random whatever it is. Say you're gonna raise. Okay, I'm raising a $50 million fund, right? Y'all gotta chip in and find a way to make that fund possible.
Yes.
Is that correct? Like a funding round in a startup.
Yeah.
Right. And you look through that through your network.
Yeah.
Now, later I'll ask you how important and how you build a network, because you can't just ask random schmucks in the road, like, hey, do you know anyone who can invest? Right?
Yeah.
They're hard to find.
Yeah.
Right. But later on, before we do that, what's the benefit for the VC firm? What do they get after they convince the limited partner or whatever in return?
Yeah. So there's a few things. So our business is heavily a relationship business.
Obviously,
So for us to get a partner, a limited partner, so we call our investors limited partners.
Okay.
For us to get a limited partner on board means that we want to work with them over the life of multiple funds.
And that's usually how long?
Well, one fund is 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
So you need to be able, if I'm an LP, I need to be able to sit and sleep for 10 years and not expect anything in return.
Worst case, yes.
Yes. So imagine if you want a quick buck or a quick quick pack, whatever. Dude, this game's not free.
No, if you expect to get your money back in like 1 or 2 years, I wouldn't invest in a venture capital fund.
Put it in a bank.
Yeah.
Or loan it somewhere.
No,
Right.
don't put it in a bank. You'll
No,
lose
just
it. You'll lose it
kidding.
as well. No,
Right.
so I'll put it somewhere else. But it's
Right.
so that's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what you do is so one is, as a fund, when you attract capital,
Right.
again you're trying to build a relationship over a longer time.
Right.
But as a fund, it allows you to do a few things. When you get capital, you're able to get a management fee off of what you raise.
Got it. So
And
there's
that-
like that's like sort of the commission per se.
You can call it a commission.
Yeah.
And that management fee allows us to run our company. It allows us to fly around the region and meet other companies, to host events, pay our staff, have an office, and turn
Keep
lights
the
on.
engine running.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now, Mike, from that point of view, so now we understand. Now, the other side of the deal is once you raise that fund, you gotta look for people to invest it on, because your promise. What's the expectation of a limited partner when they invest? Like, all right, I'll put in. You need 50 mil. I'll it's like, dude, this is crazy numbers. I only see this in NBA salaries. Like, I'll put in 20 mil USD here, one drop. I'll be part of your fund.
Yeah.
Right. What do they expect in return? What's your promise to them to get that done?
So first and foremost, the expectation is transparency and communication.
Okay.
They want to understand what you're doing, and more importantly, why are you doing it.
Okay.
So the easy part is, I would say, we get money, we find the best companies, everybody's happy.
Okay.
It's not how it works.
No.
Because how do you define what the best company is?
True.
So the best company is very much defined by timing, where the ecosystem is, maturity, the founder, maybe macroeconomics, maybe country economics. There's a lot of things that got to go into
A lot of
play.
factors, right?
But the first thing that our investors need to understand is, why are you investing in this company? What is your reason to do this? And if we can explain to them that we have solid reasons, X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
to do this right now,
Right.
then 9 times out of 10, you're building a relationship. If you're just saying, I only invest in the best companies, that's a marketing spiel that doesn't really hold
Right,
true.
right.
Because every VC will say, I have a top portfolio.
Of course.
Because everyone says. So you can't argue that I'm investing in the best companies because everybody invests in the best companies.
Of course.
You have to understand that you're building what we call a thesis.
Yes.
And the thesis is the reason why are you investing and how you're investing. So that's kind of the
a formula, a playbook per se already.
Playbook, yeah.
Of how you're gonna use that money because it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's not your money. So you can't just make it rain. Let's go to the club, drop 10 grand a night.
No, so what you do is you tell the investors, this is our playbook, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to achieve, and these are the companies that we feel that fit kind of our thesis.
And in retrospect, an angel sort of doesn't have to go through that because now the middleman or the VC, because they write smaller checks, can just go direct, like, all right, I'll invest in you, per se. Mike, what do you look for? So everybody's out there looking for you. Like, Mike, I need money and whatnot. What makes an investable startup from your point of view? Because again, it doesn't mean if you don't get funded by a VC, doesn't mean that your startup's is shit, right? It's just that you need to understand the metrics, the way how they operate, and why you should qualify or you're eligible to be funded by them. Because once you get VC money, technically you need to keep raising funding because it's a game of valuations, right? If you stay at one valuation, if you don't expand or if you don't grow exponentially, then that VC money that they promise their limited partners ain't worth shit, right? So Mike, let's go back to that. What do you look for in the startups that are eligible for you guys to be funding?
So, for us, if you look at how we make returns for our investors,
right?
So if we would, let's say an investor puts in $1 into our fund,
right,
and we give them $1 back,
right,
then they can leave the money into the bank,
right.
So for them, they're looking for what we call outsized returns, and outsized returns means they get a lot of money back.
Correct. High risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward.
Yep.
So if we invest in a company and a company tells me, Mike, amazing founder, it's a decent business, it's generating revenue, I want to raise money to kind of keep where I am.
Yep.
I'm growing like 6-7% a year. You're probably not a good fit for a VC.
Sure.
Because we look for companies that at least double their revenue every single year.
Listen, do you hear that, guys? Double your revenue every year. You need crazy, crazy growth.
Yeah, because otherwise, so the thing is, if you don't grow fast, our money becomes really expensive.
Stagnant, right,
and expensive because we own a portion of your company because we have invested.
Correct.
If you go to a bank, you'll pay interest,
right?
But they don't own banks nowadays.
Right.
They don't own a part of your company.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to understand: am I raising money to fuel growth? It's literally putting nitro into your car and going really fast.
Yep. Feel like you're Vin Diesel.
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
You're fueling growth. So we invest in companies, and our investment has to go towards growth. So you're hiring people, you're launching a new product in your product range, you're going to a few new countries, you're adding on your marketing side, etc.
Doesn't necessarily have to be revenue based, right? It can be, because it depends on the model of the startup too.
Yeah.
Right. If depending on the business model, some of that may come later on, like the Facebooks of the world and whatnot, where they only got pretty much liquid after X amount of years. Yeah. But you need to have exponential growth where your valuation also not just doubles, but triples or quadruples every single funding round that you need to raise.
Yeah, exactly. Because one is, I do have to say that we are looking for sustainable growth, because I think the years where we just get market share, we don't care about your revenue, I think those days are over. I think people are more conscious about the company has to be sustainable in a certain amount of time, because otherwise
it should be a business still, not just a fad or a Snapchat where boom, okay, we IPO, then boom, it's crashed.
Then it falls back, right? So Lyft had an amazing pop, now it dropped again. People are getting nervous. So I think it's really important to protect a bit of the downside as well. To your question, sort of what do we look for in entrepreneurs?
Sure.
I think the most important, and I always, every partner will tell something different, because we have sort of our own sort of way of looking at companies and entrepreneurs. But I would say that for me, and I always hammer on execution and focus.
There you go.
The business that you're in, you can be in farming or in food tech or in education technology or in insurtech. If you are unfocused and if you are not living your promise as in executing,
Sure.
it doesn't matter. You're not going to succeed.
And I'm going to echo this. One of my mentors that I always like, I wrote this blog about when we got acquired, and I put it there, and I just remembered it now. Nick Snoliedo of SurePass said it here. That during his first few years in SurePass, he said that people thought that he was doing a lot of things, but in reality, he's only one thing. He did that for like 7 years span. Yeah. One thing and one thing alone, which is SurePass. And verbatim, here's what he said. The kiss of death for startups is when you have conglomerate thinking.
Yeah.
Meaning you're trying to be too many things at one time.
Yeah.
Because that's just going to distract you. And guess what? That's the nail in the coffin.
It is.
Always.
It literally is. And you'll see that, just go back to where do you know successful founders from? You usually know them from one thing they did
Correct.
really well.
Do it well. Don't be a jack of all trades.
Yes.
I mean, I understand you got to make ends meet. Do a side hustle to make ends meet. But you got to feed your main hustle and be all in. Because if you're not all in your hustle, how do you expect more people to put their money on you?
Exactly.
If you're trying to do three things at the same time.
So even in when the companies pitch us and they are in too many directions, that's a red flag for us.
Yeah.
We really want someone to be focused on if your main thing isn't big enough yet.
Okay.
You are unable to work on anything else. That's in my mind that is impossible.
True.
So what I look for, so when I interview founders, that's what I look for.
Okay.
And eventually there's more traits. So are you down the line? Do we think that you are able to lead a team and inspire a team? Because
management. Right.
Yeah, because in the end, you might start as a founder or maybe as a founding group, or you have like 6 or 7 people, but your company, if it's 100. Your company changes, and you have people looking up to you or up to you and your co-founders to lead them into where are we going.
Absolutely, and I feel that now. Like before, I didn't care. Like, yeah, I'll do it all. I'm a one-man team, but eventually, you're gonna have to scale.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out. You're gonna have to figure out to delegate and trust your team to execute for you, and your role changes every month or even every quarter.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's that fast-paced. But anyway, Mike, let's take another quick break. But when we come back, let's talk about your tips. Okay, let's talk about tips that will and the truth, the cold hard truth that a lot of, at least from the Philippine setting, we need to hear, because there's something wrong. There's something in the water. There's something wrong with our ecosystem in the Philippines, and I'd like to get your 2 cents on this from an outsider's point of view, because a lot of VCs are not here, and I want to know why. So let's talk about more of that after the break.
Effective automation is the best way for businesses to stay competitive. And having a chatbot for your business lets you easily automate and optimize sales, marketing, and customer service in the digital age. Chatbot PH will build, train, maintain, and market your chatbot across all messaging platforms. Our team uses the latest AI technologies to enable you to better serve customers 24/7, 365. Set a meeting with us today. Message us now at m.me/chatbotph.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Michael Lints of the Golden Gate Ventures Fund, or VC. Now, Mike, let's talk about the more important thing. So, in the Philippines, I appreciate you because you go here often. Still, when it feels like sometimes we're just left on our own.
Yeah.
I mean, a few years back, a lot of excitement was here because a lot of VCs on a regional scale, at least, the ones that fund the bigger startups, the Grabs of the world and whatnot, are here. And now I don't see you guys often. And there's something in the water. And then if you look at it from a startup ecosystem point of view, yes, there's a lot of startups, but the question is it enough? And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, okay, that doesn't mean that we have a startup that we need to swing for the fucking fences here. We need to change not that the Philippines, but something that you can replicate. So a perfect example, Red Doors.
Yeah.
when they were starting out a few years back, they met with me. So 500 startups introed me to them. It's like, hey, these are whatever. I didn't really realize what they were up to until I saw red doors everywhere here. Now, like, holy shit. Those guys are like the most humble ones I've seen. Like, I've met with them. Like, wow. So red doors, if you can see, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will probably listen. That's a regional startup. They're not just here. They're everywhere in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, from that point of view, Mike, what's missing here? It's why are you the big funds from international startup? I mean, because at least they haven't funded a Filipino startup in a long time after Ayana.
It's been a bit,
right?
yeah. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
Why?
There's so much to unpack here. So we don't have time to go in depth into all, but
Sure.
I'll be transparent in how I see it.
Okay.
So prior to our convo, I was looking up when was my first trip to Manila?
Jeeks on a plane, I think was.
2014.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember we had a sort of a mini conference, I think with one of the accelerators.
Right.
And the funny thing is, this is 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The question was, what should the Filipino startup ecosystem do
And I'm still asking the same shit.
to get to the next level? This question then rang true every single year I came back to speak at a conference. So then last year I was like, hold on. If we are asking ourselves the same question for 5 years long, what if we literally done about it?
Right.
Done. So I'm glad that there's initiatives in the city.
Sure.
But the issue is, initiatives are great. In the end, you need to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, and I'll tell you this, money is not the issue.
There's a lot of money here.
Money is not the issue. So we cannot complain about money. So, okay, I'm just going to put it up, right?
Call a spade
So
a spade, bro.
should we complain about talent?
No.
No.
It's a treasure trove of talent here.
So, great English-speaking talent,
Yep.
hustle hard, the interest in tech. You have like a home audience. You don't have to. So the funny thing is, as a startup here,
Right.
you don't have to go abroad from day one. In Singapore, you have to be abroad from day one.
Yeah.
Here, you
immigrate, right.
can build a strong home base. So there's money, there's talent, there's initiatives. So my question is, do you guys really want this?
Yeah.
Because if everything is in place, okay, maybe not everything, but if you have components in place, do you guys really want this epicosystem? So my answer is mixed, because I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys really want this. I'll do a really quick sidestep.
Okay.
When we go out to raise a new fund, or when we go out to really find a company that we want to invest in, we'll move mountains.
Yeah.
I don't care what needs to happen. It's going to happen.
Right.
We'll move mountains. Going back to our 5 years discussions, if you talk about it for 5 years and you really wanted it, something would have changed.
Right.
And
the mountains are still there now.
And of course, there are amazing
And
examples.
there's more mountains too.
Yes, there are amazing, but all the examples are always a handful. It's always 2 or 3 or maybe 4 companies that might break out or broken out, or Coins.ph got acquired.
Congratulations
Amazing
again, Ron.
story,
Yes.
amazing story. But you'll need
More
6, 7,
coins.
8, 9 of those stories.
Yes.
So I think what it's hard to say this as an outsider. I fly in.
We need to hear this because again, you get the same fucking question. So if someone asks you like, "Hey, listen to that Hustleshare episode,"
Yes. So my thing is, you guys have asked me. As I say, you guys just in general, the Philippines has asked for me as a VC, what should we be doing here?
Sure.
For 5 freaking years. I think you guys know what needs to be done.
Back it up now.
Yeah, but no one does it, and that's annoying. So you have so many freaking examples across the entire region.
Sure.
And I'm not saying you need to copy Singapore.
Right.
You need to do what works for the Philippines. So there's a few things.
Okay.
Okay. If I'm allowed to sit in this chair and advise early stage investors
Sure.
here in the Philippines. If that's
Investors.
okay. If that's okay.
Not
Investors.
startups.
No, I'm talking to the investor landscape.
Okay.
If you find a company and you really like the founder, you like the team, and you think there's some legs there, do me one small favor. Don't ask for majority of their shares. You're literally killing the company. That's what you're doing. A company that has an investor on board that owns 51% as an
Yeah.
angel, forget about getting another round of funding.
Absolutely.
That's how life works. Just forget about it. And it may be a mentality thing. It may be something that's sort of in the DNA of
Yeah.
those investors. You have to stop it. As you know, a typical financing round is dilution is around, let's say 25, maybe 30%
That's at an early stage.
at early stage.
The first investor.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you ask 51, you're killing the company.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So the company's going to get acquired at Series A. For me as an investor, a company getting acquired at Series A is not good in terms of returns for our fund.
Okay.
So look at it from a ecosystem play.
Okay.
If there is enough talent and if there is a strong home market, if there is enough money, find a structure where you find confident in investing in those companies, but at least leave a bit of room for outside investors like us or any of the other guys, Gobi, Jungle, Monks, Open
Yeah.
Space, doesn't matter. For all of them
Heck,
to
even Kickstart. Kickstart is doing way better with their investment strategy now.
Yeah,
Because
so-
again, they took a gamble on us, the early stage, but they did a pivot as well.
Yeah.
With what they're doing, and all the companies that they invest, the Wattpads of the world, like great portfolio, right?
So nurture that, and don't be afraid that by the fact that you don't have 51%, you don't have control, you can force or have control in other ways. Take a board seat, take an advisory position, have some veto rights, but at least don't kill the company at the first round of funding.
Make room in that cap table.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Then the second thing is, I always talk about this. Please take those companies on road shows across the region.
True.
It is so simple. Just buy a few airline tickets.
Airbnb, whatever.
Yeah, Airbnb. Just hustle it. Come to Singapore. Go to Vietnam. Go. I don't care, but at least
Expose yourself.
Expose those companies.
Right.
Make them visible. Make them visible. And also, it helps them to see how other ecosystems work and let them talk to other founders and get them inspired by how they work, how hard they hustle.
There's one example that's good. Accudine.
Yep.
Accudine
Yes.
is here in Myanmar of all places. Why are you in Myanmar?
Those are
Doing
examples.
well,
Those are examples.
right? Because
Yeah.
they have the point of view of not just a Philippine setting. Because most of the time, it's not just the VCs. Actually, a lot of the Filipino founders as well are at fault. We're too narrow-minded sometimes. Though we only want to solve that little problem at the backyard. I know we're trying to solve a fucking problem here.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're going to solve a problem, you want to fucking swing for the fences that, a random dude in Singapore or a random dude in fucking Myanmar or whatever, Brunei, has the same shit. So
Yeah.
your ability can scale. So because if you're happy with a $1 million valuation after a Series A, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're talking about, Mike, just shed some light here. A healthy Series A now is in the range of what valuation?
Well, we're getting up there. So, I would say they're ranging from on the lower end around
Floor, right.
floor 5, but upper end 20, 25.
20 mil.
Yeah,
And you're trying to bridge Series B, which is around how much?
yeah, we're getting there, right? So the typical B rounds would be between 15 to 30 mil now.
See, that's a pony already,
Yeah.
right? And next level will be a centaur, and next thing you know, it's been done in other countries.
Yeah.
Where Indonesia, how many unicorns do they have?
Well, they're getting more and more. So it's
Right.
so the funny thing is, don't forget that a lot of these founders in Indonesia and Singapore and Malaysia, they've gone to other countries and got inspiration.
True.
They've gone to Europe and got inspiration. They've seen other startups like, I can do this and I can bring this back here and got an inspiration and make it big.
Correct. Similar to like Angkas, our local favorite startup here. That's actually not original here.
Yeah.
they got that from Gojek.
Yeah, and which is fine. Which is fine. It is fine to, maybe copy something from somewhere else.
Right.
Do a few iterations, make it local, grow big. Once you're big here, you can do more.
Correct. And make it yours.
Yes.
But dude, at the end of the day, it's all about execution. Now, from a startup, from a founder's point of view, right? What do they need to do at least when your tips and when you're approaching a VC? Because I've seen so many bloopers that you guys post about this in the my VC friends. Like some random email, some dude sent an email to all the VCs and they're all CC'd in one chain. How do you get the attention of a VC to even set up a meeting or even get a reply back?
There's no magic in getting a reply back from a VC. Think about your pitch. Mm-hmm. Pitch it to the people you trust. Ask them for feedback.
Not ask for money right away.
No, ask for feedback.
Or advice.
Or advice.
Okay.
I'm working on this. What do you guys think? Or, hey, I'm unsure whether this is ready for you guys to look at.
Right.
Could you give me 10 minutes to kind of walk me through where I'm at?
All right.
It's very simple.
Sure. Now, in terms of doing like in sales, warm intro versus a cold lead has a better fit. So, would it be better if someone acted like a wingman and referred you like, hey, I know this guy? It kind of validates him.
Always, always. I mean, it's you say it yourself. It's validation,
right?
So it's very important to have that, and it's the ecosystem is relatively small.
Correct.
Even look at LinkedIn. Who are my second degree people in my network that I can talk to and that can help me get introductions.
Queue up.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, Mike, lastly, in terms of getting a net or building a network, because you did this yourself early on. They say it. They've said it before and they say it again. Your network is your net worth. Yeah. How do you build a good network? Because like for me, a lot of podcasters have been messaging me lately. Hey Ron, how do you get your guests? I maybe I was just lucky because I built this network throughout my main hustle, and most of them, actually all of them that I've featured here, are all my friends.
Yeah.
So it's easy to hook a brother up.
Yeah.
Yo, can you be on my podcast? It's game. It's good. But how do you build a network if you're just starting from the game, and whether you want to be a VC or a tech or a founder? How do you build a good network? How do you know you're not wasting your time?
So there's small tips and tricks.
Okay.
But I would say it starts by making yourself vulnerable and getting out there. So what most people do is they don't want to get out of the house. Because going to somewhere new is being uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'll if you look at my journey, I worked at ING. I started my own company. I was uncomfortable,
right?
But made it work.
Right.
I could ask for a board with top tier CEOs. I was uncomfortable because I was a kid. I was young, but I made it work.
Right.
I started investing. I was uncomfortable because it was new. Just made it work.
And you're in a different fucking continent now.
I'm in a different continent now. Made it work. So it's being vulnerable by being out there. Just if you have zero network, it's the best thing ever because you can start anywhere. You can go to a conference and walk up to people and exchange cards.
And just conquer that fear.
Yeah.
Once you get momentum, you'll eventually get a hang of it.
It's learning by doing. And you'll fall flat on your face because you'll make a stupid remark and someone will look at you like, what the hell are you saying? And that's fine because I've had those moments over and over and over.
Everybody
I still have them. Yeah.
Right. Same. Like I do the stupid joke and it was like dead air. Like what the fuck?
And then you look at each other like you are an idiot. But it's fine. That's how you learn.
Sure. Or bring a wingman at least. So at least you're.
Yeah.
It's if you have a team, then there's two of you who's gonna be idiots. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Find a buddy. That's also
correct.
helpful.
Correct. Now, Mike, let's talk about two things. One more. Yeah. You wrote articles about reaching your potential. And what's the other one?
Oh my goodness! So I have written a few. So I've written one on fundraising, and I've written one on reaching your potential, and I've written one on removing noise from your
We'll
life.
have that in the show notes. So if you're not there, but just walk us briefly, real quick, before we let you go, on what those are, so that we can have a little bit of a good gist of what those are and what you're trying to teach people there.
Yeah, so I think through my life, I've always tried to sort of run, fall flat on my face, get up, run again.
Right.
I feel that not everyone has to go through that path. Although getting experience is amazing. So what I'm trying to kind of put in writing is a few things that are essential. So we as persons are trying to be nice to everyone.
Yep.
And we are mistaking niceness for I don't want to be the bad guy, or I don't want to sound arrogant, or I don't want to come over as an asshole.
Right.
It has nothing to do with it. Saying no is actually helpful for yourself, but also for the other. And just my biggest example is always, helping other people I love helping people, so I always do it whenever I can.
Yep.
But I only do it when I have the capacity to help someone. I say no 70% of the time.
Nice.
Because it means that I don't think I'm able to help you.
Right.
And if I would say yes, I'm just freaking lying to you.
Yeah.
And I'm getting you and myself in a worse position than you are right now.
True.
So it's again, going back to focus. I've learned, I'm 43 now, it sound old.
You don't sound 43. I mean, you look 43. I look older than you. And you're 13 years the senior, man.
I feel 43, man.
Oh, dude.
But
Nope.
the thing I've learned is, so focus, execution, and transparency.
Okay.
It will get you a long way.
All right, now, Mike. Before we let you go, where do they contact you if they they want to get your advice,
Yeah.
or if there's a limited partner that wants to invest in the next fund that you guys are raising?
So I'm just pretty easy to find. You can always send me an email. Michael at goldengate.vc. Here's my plug. No, for any questions, so I tend to always respond on email. So if you have any question, feel free to ask. If it's fundraising, if it's about your company, if it's about how to run a VC firm, if it's about things in life, if it's about cycling.
There you go.
Yeah, let me know.
All right. So again, before we end this episode, please do message us on our chat bot if you want to be the first one to know about our new episodes. And if you want to suggest any new guests, just go to m.me/hustleshare. That's powered by chatbot.ph. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts. I mean, not iTunes anymore. Spotify and on hustleshare.com. This has been Hustleshare episode 13. Thank you again, Mike.
You're welcome.
And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.